Welcome back, everybody. As you guessed, we are going over this pistol right here. This is the Ruger LCP II. It is obviously a very small gun designed for concealed carry, chambered in 380 ACP. I do have a full review of the original one that we're going to get into here in just a little bit as well. But the Ruger LCP II, my opinion, should probably be called the Ruger LCP III because the original actually had a pretty major overhaul after a few years. So it came out, I think, in 2008, and it really did, regardless of what people think about it, it revolutionized concealed carry at the time. So a lot of folks simply aren't going to carry big guns. This was a reliable gun, or at least the original one was a reliable gun that you could easily slip in your pocket and almost forget was there. And then, of course, if you needed it, a gun is definitely better than no gun. So a lot of people got their concealed carry permits, carried those guns, the same with the M&P Bodyguard. But on the original ones, the ones that came out in 2008, there's a couple big problems with it. So the sights were really bad and the trigger was atrocious. I mean, the trigger on that thing, I had the original one, then I had the revised one. The trigger on the original one was like legitimately 14 or 15 pounds. It was just insane. And it made it very difficult to hit anything outside of, 10 yards with it. It just became quite difficult. And the revised one, which is the one we're going to show you here in just a second that we have, they reduced that down probably to around 9 pounds, 10 pounds in the trigger pull, and they improved the sights as well. However, they called it a rolling change, not a generational difference. This is definitely a generational difference. So let's get into the details of it here and sort of walk you through everything that's going on. Moving on to the details of the pistol, we'll start here with the magazines. They do drop free, as you can see there. 6-round capacity. It does have this little finger extension on there, and it's textured to match the grip as well, which is different than the original ones, but the big difference is it does lock the slide open on the last round. That, of course, is nice for a number of reasons, but it lets you know your gun is empty, which is good information to know if you find yourself on a two-way range. It also allows you to use your slide stop or slide release lever to reload. So you can either push down on there or you can just run the slide. Either way, get your gun back into action with some fresh ammo in there. So the original mags will work just fine. We're going to get into mags here in a little bit more detail later on. They'll work just fine. They function just fine. They just won't lock the slide back. So there is that. If you have a surplus of them, you can still use them and they function just fine. Continuing on up to the grip, one big difference is the texture for sure. This grip texture has a lot more both in the front and the back and the sides than the original one did. And it also has somewhat of a swell here. Let me kind of move in. Hopefully my camera will focus. But there's a little bit of a swell there on the back portion of it. Now, that does increase the diameter of it, or the width of it, I should say, over the original gun for sure. However, it's much more comfortable for people with normal size hands, and then with people who have large hands like I do, it makes a substantial difference in terms of controllability of the gun and just comfort when you shoot it. The wider a gun is back here at the rear, where it actually mates up with your hands, the more area there is to distribute the recoil energy across, so it just feels like a softer shooting gun, and it has less of a kind of like a thunk when it fires, I should say. Magazine release there is on the left side as it comes from the factory. It is not reversible, so that's something that some folks don't like. You can see there in our magazine, it's only cut for one side. So take that for what it's worth. We're getting some waves kicking up from a boat that just went by. That's actually kind of rare here. But there is that. We already touched on the slide stop, slide lock. It's not a overly large, button or control. So I have never actuated it accidentally, and that is a big thing for semi-auto guns. A lot of folks who use a high thumbs grip can accidentally do that. Speaking of high thumbs grip, let's talk about that. As you guys can see there, my hands are big, and my thumb will actually come out up front of the muzzle. With 380, if you do this, ask me how I know. If you do this, you're not actually going to blow your finger off like you could with like a 44 Magnum in front of a cylinder or something like that. But it'll let you know, gives you a little sting. So just be cognizant of that. If you have big hands, try to keep that thumb down there when you're firing with both hands. Continuing on up, we do have that pin that you have to remove to take it down. I have a full video on disassembling, cleaning, lubricating, and reassembling the LCP pistol. Nothing's changed there. It's a simple process, not really a big deal. You don't have to pull the trigger. Some folks do like that. Our trigger guard there, relatively large for a micro pistol. So if you live in an area where you're going to be wearing gloves and concealed carrying, that's definitely an advantage. However, one of the biggest advantages to the LCP2 over the originals is the trigger that you see here. So it has that blade style trigger like you would see with a Glock. So that is an additional safety, a drop safety to it. So no matter how hard I do this, it's not going to actually, the trigger's not going to fall. However, it is a hammer fired gun, but it shoots and feels like a striker fired gun. So for those of you guys who are used to like your Glocks, your M&Ps, those sorts of things, it's going to feel very similar. And the trigger pull weight on it is excellent. So it breaks right at 6 pounds. You guys can see we have that take up there. Then you kind of hit a wall. It's pretty predictable. It's 6 pounds. It's crisp. The reset is long though. If you guys are, reset junkies, and that's where it resets. Again, predictable wall, break, and reset. Just like that. It is not a trigger that if it was on like a full-size striker fire gun that I would say it's an excellent trigger. I would say it's an average trigger. However, on a pocketable micro 380, it is a fantastic trigger. It's the best one that I think I've fired to date. Prior to that, I would say it would have been in the car, but this one, in my opinion, is better than the car. It's not as smooth as the car, but in terms of predictability and being able to anticipate the break, those sorts of things for accuracy, which typically you don't have on a micro pistol, this one simply is the best that I've used, in my opinion anyway. Continuing forward of the trigger guard, we do have those front serrations up there on the front for those of you guys that like to do that for whatever reason. We do not have a light rail as you would probably expect on a pistol of this size. However, there are companies that make lights that you can mount on there as well as lasers. And in fact, there's actually holsters for them as well. That's one of the advantages of the LCP2 over some of the competitors out there, is that there are a ton of accessories for this gun. So that certainly is a good thing. Moving on up to the slide, you guys can see on this one we have some finished wear. That's because of, as of right now, we put 600 rounds through it. So we're out there using it, carrying it, those sorts of things. But it does have good serrations at the front and the rear. So for those of you guys who like to do your press checks, you can easily do it here with this pistol, the same on the rear. It's not difficult to run the slide compared to other small pistols, right? So a lot of people look at guns like this and be like, oh, my wife, girlfriend, mother, whoever who's not an experienced shooter, that's the greatest gun for them. Well, it might be if they need a super compact gun. However, something like a Shield 380 Easy, for example, is going to be much easier to control, fire, manipulate, etc. than this. But for a micro compact gun, it's very easy and no issues there. As far as that, the sights on the pistol are good for a gun of this size, but I think they could have been better. So at the rear here, we have our serrations, square notch. Everything's good there. It's a no snag type design, so don't plan on doing any one-handed manipulations with this gun. It's probably not going to happen. And I think where they kind of missed the mark on this one is the front sight, because typically if something snags, it's going to be your rear sight, especially if you're drawing from a pocket. And the front sight is just black serrated sight as well that's built in, which is cool. Again, compared to the earlier one, which we'll get into that in a minute, it's better, but had they at least added some color, maybe even a white dot, something like that, I think it would help with accuracy in terms of quick target acquisition for most folks anyway, because a lot of folks are front sight focused. That's how they train. So I think it could have been a little bit better there, but it's not terrible at all. Inside, it looks pretty much exactly like the original LCP. We have our 2 3/4 inch barrel out there. This one actually has a crown at the end of it. I'm not sure it's going to really aid in practical accuracy for folks. However, good on them. It certainly isn't going to hurt anything at all. Got 1 in the pipe and 6 in the mag of the XTP bullets, which is my preferred 380 self-defense round. Outside of that, I kind of just go ball, but we'll see how it runs. Perfect. As I discussed earlier, this is essentially a Gen 2 of the Gen 1, so this has the revisions with the improved sights, again, versus the very early models and the non-15-pound trigger on there. Otherwise, it is a Gen 1 Ruger LCP. So comparing the two side by side, the slide release, slide lock lever on the Gen 2 is much better. It's much easier to use. However, the biggest thing you're going to notice is that it is a touch thicker, right? So it's a small gun, without question, as we'll show here in just a second. But when we're talking about these micro compacts that most people are going to put in their pocket or use for very discreet carry, like the other day I had a doctor message me and say, hey, I want to carry a gun because I work in a hospital and there's a lot of freaking crazy people there, but it's against my policy and I'll get fired if I carry one. What gun do you recommend? This was my answer. Like, you can carry this in a number of ways and no one would ever ever know, regardless of what body position or clothing you end up wearing. So to that end, that little difference does make a little bit of a difference depending on how you use it. So there is that. But yeah, the texture on there, again, it's just better. The sights are better. Really, it's a upgraded pistol from a shooting experience in every way, with the exception of that thickness. Again, when you fire them back to back, the thinness on this one, on the back strap there, it definitely focuses the recoil a little bit. And it's not that it's a snappy pistol, it's not, 380 is not bad. But for folks who are recoil sensitive, which I think a lot of people looking at this probably are, it may make a difference. A lot of folks like to comment in the video before they watch the whole thing, which is totally cool. But I'm sure right now in the comments section, there's a bunch of people saying, I pocket carry my Glock 43 or my Shield or my PPS or whatever. I don't know why I would have to go to an LCP if I want a deep pocket carry gun. Well, again, there's a substantial size difference in weight too. The LCP here, the thing weighs 10 ounces unloaded, which is crazy. So there you guys can see the thickness, and that's the thickest part there on that back strap. It's still thinner than the Glock 43. The same is going to be true there on the slide, as well as the length, as well as the weight. So in terms of that, in every way possible, it is absolutely a smaller gun. And of course, the Glock 42 is a touch smaller than the 43, but essentially the same size. So can I shoot a Glock 42 better than I shoot this gun? Yes. However, I still shoot this gun much better than I do the original. And then the original Gen 2, I shoot a little bit better, so etc. It is a, sort of a moving goalpost in terms of shootability, while still maintaining that really, really small pocket carry type of gun. There's just a couple other things I want to touch on here before we close the video out. One of them is going to be holsters. One nice thing is that the Ruger does come with a holster. So it ships with this one here from the factory. As you can see there, it is a pocket carry design holster. This piece of sort of like rubberized material here, I'm not sure what it is designed to stick into your pocket material, and that way when you draw, you come out just like that. It does work. I've not had an issue with it to date. However, this is the one I personally recommend. It's a DeSantis. It's fantastic. For pocket carry, I've tried them all. They're just the best in my opinion. They don't pay me anything. They've never sent me a holster, I don't think, anyway, not that I can remember. But this is the G3 size. And again, if you have one of these and you want to add a lighter laser or anything like that, they make pocket carry holsters for those as well. Of course, there's plenty of inside the waistband holsters out there for them as well. Lots and lots of options, again, for accessories with the LCP II. Moving on to magazines, this is our Gen 2 mag here. And as you guys will see, it locks back as it should on the last round, as it's designed to do anyway. And it only comes with one of those, so that is a downside to the pistol if you're looking to pick one up. However, they're really readily available out there for them. This one is a Gen 1 LCP. You guys can see there, will not lock back on the last round. Then an interesting candidate there, this one is the CPD magazine, C Products or Durmag. You'll see it labeled both. Now this one here, what's weird is if you go to their site, they'll say it doesn't lock the slide back. Occasionally it will, but not always, not reliably anyway. So just take that for what it's worth. These do come with both a flat base plate and an extended one. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. Let's see if it locks back. It does this time, but again, it's not reliable. Don't count on that. Don't count on it locking back each time. Now, one thing I want to talk about while we have the magazines here, let me grab that Gen 2 one here. And so again, like we mentioned, a few hundred rounds through the gun. However, we had two malfunctions that are not gun malfunctions in my opinion. They're shooter induced malfunctions. So what had happened was, basically, with the extended piece on there, this happened both with the Gen 2 mag here, and then additionally the CPD mag that I have that has a finger extension on there. So as we grip it, I guess that'd be my ring finger there, is putting pressure like that on it, right? So when I was firing, and this only happened two-handed as well, I should mention that didn't happen when I was firing single hand. Basically, I think the downward pressure that I'm putting on there with that extension, as well as my thumbs forward grip, I think I was putting a little bit of pressure on the mag release, and that right there would happen, where it just barely comes out of insertion. Hit the mag release. and basically you'd get a failure feed because the mag had dropped down. That happened twice, once with each mag. Again, I think that's a shooter problem. It never happened when I was shooting with a flat base plate. So that really leads me to my conclusion that it's just me doing it. So for carry wise, for me personally, 100%, without question, it would be carrying with a flat base plate, because I really don't think, with my hands anyway, and it could be different depending on you, that little extension makes much difference when shooting this pistol. At least it didn't for me anyway. At this point, we've covered everything important with the exception of price, in my opinion. So this one here, I think MSRP is $349. However, this one was sent out by the folks over at Big Daddy Unlimited. Big thank you to them. So they sent this one out for the review. If you guys don't know, they're sort of, everyone says, the Costco for guns, where you can become a member, and then they sell things below MAP pricing, which is nice. And on certain things, they just have absolutely the best prices on the internet, without question. But they do have a 99-cent trial membership. If you guys just want to get in there and poke around and see what's going on, there'll be a link pinned in the comments or in the video description, depending on where you're watching this. But regardless, like I said, MSRP is $349. On the LCP IIs, you'll generally see them under $300. I don't know that I've seen them below $250, whereas on the original ones, which are still being produced, I should point out, those you can find, if you get a really good sale or something, you'll see them around $199. So plan on paying $75-ish to $100 premium for the LCP II. Is it worth it? I don't know. I can never answer worth questions because that's subjective to you as the purchaser. However, for me, it totally would be. I think it's, again, a product improved gun in just about every way. The size difference for me with how I dress, it simply doesn't matter. And I think just, again, the upgraded sights, the upgraded trigger, etc., make it worth it for me. Now let's talk about this gun just as a kind of like a broad, should you carry this gun, right? The answer, in my opinion, is yes. 380 ACP is, for me anyway, my personal minimum caliber that I will use in any self-defense situation. Do I prefer 9mm for, stopping a threat? Sure. However, a pistol round is still a pistol round, period, in terms of stopping threats. So, good luck with that. It's not the best at it, that's for sure. However, 380 with modern loads, either, like I said earlier, the XTPs, or even some of the like a flat-nosed ball load, they do okay. If you look at the data, it's certainly better than a sharp stick, that's for sure. And having 6+1 of it, not super great, because a lot of times in gunfights, people like to pull that trigger really fast. However, one benefit is the spare mags are super easy to conceal as well. So it's really easy to throw a spare mag in there. And if you need a little bit of extra capacity. Now, again, would I be more comfortable carrying something 10+1, 15+1? Yes. However, am I more comfortable carrying this than not carrying a gun? 100%. And I think that's really where this comes into play. For example, my sister-in-law, last week we were hanging out, and she walks a lot, right? And she wears yoga pants. So she was asking me for tips, ideas, etc. to carry, because she's out in the middle of nowhere in the country doing this. And so basically I was like looking at her setup, and the way her yoga pants worked, they had built-in pockets in them, which just about happened to be holster size for this gun. So for her to put it in her pocket, now I typically do recommend a holster if you're gonna go in the pocket carry, but for those, because it was almost literally a holster built into her pants for the gun. For something like that, I mean, it's huge to have that ability to deep conceal really anywhere. Like I said, the doctor, you can conceal it. If you're somebody who just won't carry around a bigger gun, the world would be a much better place if all the good guys out there had an LCP in their pocket. I've said that before when talking about J-frame revolvers. The same is true here. Is it the greatest threat stopper if you're going to stop Johnny Jihad who's on a shooting spree in the mall? No, it's not, right? You definitely would rather have a Glock 19 or something like that. However, it's light years better than nothing, or the gun that you left in your car because you didn't want to carry it, etc. So I think we've beat a dead horse on that. But there's new folks to the channel here every video. So if you're new here, by the way, hit the subscribe button if you like this type of video. So I like to present that information whenever we're talking about these types of guns. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, like I just mentioned, go ahead and do that. Hit the notification bell as well. If you're not seeing 3 to 4 videos a week here on the channel and you've done all of that, make sure you sign up for an email list. You can do so at my Facebook page. You can also do so at my website under the sign up tab on each. Additionally, if you have a question that we didn't cover here in the video, or just on a different topic in general, the best place to reach me is over at my Facebook page. Shoot me a message. I get back to everybody over there. Sometimes it takes me a few days, but here on YouTube and elsewhere that I post videos, I don't always see your messages. Whereas on Facebook, if it hits my inbox, I do see it. Again, sometimes it just takes me a little bit. So that is the best place to reach me. Additionally, should this gun go on sale, Facebook is where I'll post the sale so you guys can get a better price on it. And additionally, same is true in the email. If there's a good price, we'll send it out in email. I only send 1 email a week at most. Actually, as I'm filming this, I haven't sent one out in like 2.5 weeks. I need to do it. I need to get off my butt and make it happen. But regardless, guys, thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.